Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update about the current state of affairs here in Spain regarding the lockdown that is. Now on Saturday I published a video saying that the lockdown was looming. The lockdown came into effect as of Saturday and the government announced a series of measures and a general state of alarm in the whole country. And there's a lot of things that now we cannot do as citizens. We cannot go about our daily lives as we normally do. And I'll go through what we can do and what we can't do a little bit later in the video. Now, unfortunately, the situation in Spain is not improving. There has been an increase in cases over the last few days, and time will tell whether these current measures will have an effect on the amount of new cases. So we'll wait and see with fingers crossed. But basically what happened was that the government met for 7 hours on Saturday and came out with a series of measures and also announced that there would be 4 main ministries and ministers who, apart from the Prime Minister, were in charge of everything here in Spain. And the ministries in question are the Defence Ministry, the Interior Ministry, the Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda, and the Ministry of Health. Now, the reason for the Ministry of Defence is because the army has been deployed in 7 Spanish cities, possibly more to come. The Ministry of the Interior, or the Interior Ministry, or the Home Ministry, as you probably call it in some other countries, because they are in control of the security forces, the police forces. The Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda Ministry, because public transport has been restricted. And obviously the Minister of Health, and that is probably the most important ministry here at the moment. Now, if you are not aware, the situation in Spain is that health is currently controlled in each of the autonomous communities, similar to the way in Australia health is controlled by the 6 states. Here it is in the hands of 17 autonomous communities. Now the central government has taken control of health. The Ministry of Health has also taken control of the private health sector. Remember, Spain is a country where the public sector is the main one, but there is also a private health system as well, and the government has now taken control of that in order to guarantee that hospitals are available, hospital beds are available, and medicines and other supplies are available to the people that need them, regardless of whether you have private health care or not. So that's an important measure. Now, as I said, the Ministry of Defence is also playing a key role here as the Unidad Militar de Emergencia. They are called the UME. These are the soldiers that are normally deployed if there's an earthquake or some other type of serious problem in the country. They have been deployed in 7 Spanish cities. And the 7 cities in question are Madrid, Valencia, Seville, Zaragoza, León, Las Palmas, and Santa Cruz de Tenerife. So 2 cities in the Canary Islands where the military have been deployed, as well as Madrid, Valencia, Seville, Zaragoza, and León here on the mainland. Now, what's the reason for this? Well, they are there to primarily restrict people's movements. People are not allowed to go about their day-to-day. We are confined to our homes. If you are found to be in the street without a good reason, you can be fined. Or if you are a repeat offender, there is a possible jail sentence looming. Now, here are some of the things that you can do. For example, you can leave your home for these reasons. So you can leave your home to buy essential things like foodstuffs, for example, other things that you need for your day-to-day. Cleaning materials, things like that, toilet paper, groceries, medicines. Pharmacies are still open. You're allowed to go to work. Now, a lot of businesses have shut, but a lot of businesses continue to operate, especially the ones that don't have customer relations. So, for example, the typical business on the high street, that is closed, but maybe there's a factory that is allowed to stay open, or offices are also allowed to stay open as long as they have various health and safety regulations in place. For example, the distance between people. You're allowed to return home. So let's say, for example, you were away last week and you got stuck in a place that was not your home. You are allowed to return home by private transport or public transport. There's no stopping that. You're also allowed to visit relatives in need. maybe you have a relative that has some type of problem, an elderly relative, you are allowed to visit them. You are also allowed to go to the bank. You're also allowed to go to hospitals and healthcare centres, although people are being told to stay away because they don't want the system to collapse. So unless it's an absolute necessity, then the people need to try to keep away from those places. You're allowed to take out the rubbish, but only one person at a time. People are not allowed to take out the rubbish with your partner or with your child. You have to do that individually. It normally happens that way anyway. And you're also allowed to take the dog out for a walk. But again, you're only allowed to take the dog out alone, and you can't go too far from home. In fact, there were cases yesterday of people that were going for 2 or 3 kilometre walks with their dog, and they were of course stopped by the police or stopped by the army and told to go home. You can't do any exercise. You can't ride your bike. You can't go for a run. You can't go for a stroll. Those things are prohibited. The only time that you're allowed into the street are for the reasons that I just mentioned. So for example, if you need to go and buy a loaf of bread, if you've run out of milk and you need to go to the shop, you're allowed to do that. But everything else is restricted. In fact, I haven't left home since Saturday morning because luckily I live in a house, I have a garden, I can go outside, but I haven't been out into the street. I haven't been out into a common area, let's say. Basically, you are confined at home unless the situation is a force majeure. Now, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but what that means that unless it is a special circumstance that forces you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. So as I said, your mother gets sick, she rings you up, you're allowed to go and do that, okay? A force majeure. But basically that's it, and that has been the problem, trying to convince the population of this, that they're not allowed to do what they normally do. The weather's been good the last few days. People have been walking the dog, as I said before. People have been going for a stroll. People have been going to the parks. In fact, parks have been now closed, okay? And there are police manning some of the main parks in cities like Madrid. Everything else is closed except for those essential services that I said before, supermarkets, smaller food shops and pharmacies and banks, etc. Police are also limiting the amount of people that are allowed to go into supermarkets in order to stop panic buying. We saw here at the weekend that people were going crazy in supermarkets like in other places around the world. So police are now in place outside supermarkets to make sure that people don't go crazy, and also that distance between people is being respected. I think in some cases it's up to 2 meters. Now the government has also said today that most likely this will continue beyond the initial 15 days, but I think we'll be told about that in due course. There's also been some problems in tourist areas, and of course people that maybe don't speak the language, people that don't understand what's going on, have been seen in the streets in groups, especially in Benidorm. There was a case of a group of British tourists who were seen having a barbecue in the street drinking, all of these things in big groups, and the police have had trouble to try to get it through to them that they cannot leave their hotel rooms or their apartments or wherever it is that they are staying. So if you are here in Spain at the moment on holiday, keep in mind that you are not allowed to go into the street unless it is absolutely necessary, and police or the army will most likely stop you. And remember that you could face a fine, or if you are caught doing it on more than one occasion, your possible prison sentence, okay? So it is serious here at the moment. Are the measures too drastic? Some people think they are. Some people think this is absolutely necessary. Time will tell. Obviously, we need to control this health crisis, and I think people are willing to do whatever is necessary in order for that to happen. One of the positives to come out of this is that people are showing signs of solidarity in times of crisis. People are going outside. People are going onto their balconies at 8 o'clock every day and clapping and cheering for the people that are on the front line in this crisis. People that are working in hospitals are getting the support, the police, other people that are risking their lives to save the lives of others. And that is a positive that we can take out of this. There's also a bit of a problem this morning on public transport here in Madrid, because remember that one of the things that people can do still is go to work. And there was a bit of chaos this morning on public transport in Madrid and Barcelona. Trains and metro carriages were packed and people were a bit nervous and they couldn't really understand why this was taking place. They thought there would be more frequency of trains, but obviously that wasn't the case. So a little bit chaotic this morning and a lot of people complaining about that. But in general, I think people are respecting the new situation and it's just the question of trying to get through this. I'll try to keep you up to date every couple of days with the things that are happening here, and hopefully we can get this situation under control. I'll let you guys debate it in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll try to release a video in the next couple of days if there have been any updates. Hasta luego.